It is likely that today's college students will live to see a world where fish fillets are a luxury and coral reefs are completely extinct. Research suggests that current commercial fishing practices are linked to significant changes in the oceanic biosphere because of decreased fish populations and decline of reef systems. Today, I'll discuss with you the decreased commercial fishing yields despite the efforts, and the decline of coral reef systems and how those two correlate with each other. Firstly, commercial fishing is a global issue that affects us all. Quoted in a 2012 article published in Conservation Biology, Hughes, Huang, and Young state that poor management of local fisheries has contributed to the expansion of China's ecological footprint far beyond its own territorial waters. Unable to catch enough fish locally to meet demand, China today imports at least 60% of the reef fish harvested from coral reefs across the western Pacific and eastern Indian Oceans. Efforts to reduce overfishing are working, but reducing is not enough to stop complete destruction of certain species. From 2005 to 2012, according to the European Commission of 2012, the percentage of overfished stocks decreased from 94% to 47% in the European Union. That's according to a 2014 article published in the ICES Journal of Marine Science, written by Sessenwein, Mace, and Lassen. The change is significant, but China and developing nations are contributing greatly to the destructive practices with much less progressive regulation. Chinese commercial fishing yields have decreased by 2/3 over the last half century, with other regions following suit. With that decline, I'll point you to the chart that I have taken from the Hughes, Huang, and Young article from the 2012 issue of Conservation Biology. The chart shows percent coverage of China's reefs in the onshore and disputed offshore areas. We see about a 75% decline in coverage from 1965 to 2010. This percent decline correlates very closely with the decline of fishing yields for China's offshore regions. With that, we'll talk a little bit more about reef death. It's due in part to algae growth on the reef. The algae compete with the reef for resources and will dominate if not kept in check by herbivorous fish that eat plants. Researchers observe that overfishing of herbivores is one of the causes of proliferation of macroalgae on coral reefs and can lead to a permanent shift in regime in which macroalgae, once dominant, inhibits coral settlement. That's taken from an article 2015 Journal of Biological Physics written by Bhattacharya and Paul. Reef systems are home and breeding ground for over 1 million species. At the turn of the century, it was estimated that 32% of coral reefs would be lost within 20 to 30 years, according to an article written by Weir in 2001 and published on NASA's Earth Observatory website. We're over halfway through that timeline, but we're well beyond the projected losses. So, in conclusion, research suggests that commercial fishing is linked to decreased fish populations and the decline of coral reef systems. These issues are related and create a cyclical problem. Efforts are being made by some nations, but those efforts have yet to stop the decline in fish populations and reef systems. Continued loss of reef systems will put additional strain on fish populations beyond the strain that's placed by commercial fishing. This is mostly due to reduced habitat space and safety from predators. The problem will likely lead to limited availability of seafood in the coming decades. Thank you.